Hi, it's Tootie Tagerly coming to you live on Tuesday from San Francisco, close to noon, west coast of the United States. Hi, if you're watching live or watching it on replay. So, interoception, isn't that a really big word? And I just learned it and I'm so excited about it because I think that it is, and here's the title. Interoception is an amazing new self reflection awareness tool that is really going to help all of us, navigate different workplace scenarios and situations. So, what is interoception, this big fancy word? On the simplest sense, it's awareness of how our bodies feel. It's so many of us spend time in our head. We're just head driven. We are going through our to do lists and our milestones and everything we need to get done each day. And we're kind of evaluating. We're like, what's that strategy? What is the pros and cons of it? Let's make a two by four and figure out how we get things in the top right bucket and corner. But slowing down to pay attention to how our body feels, whether it's an elevated heart rate, whether it's like the start of a flush in our face, whether it's like kind of a fluttering in our stomach or a gut thing that says this thing is not right. All of these things on the subconscious level help us help us manage our emotions, help us track the energy of a room, and overall help us get to our goals better because we're meeting with people, we're trying to get our team on the same page for our vision, and everybody has different opinions. So it's not all cut and dry in the head led sense of it. So let me share a couple of strategies and where this really may start to impact how you can be more successful and impactful at work. So so many of us are disassociated from our body sensations. Oh, here's a good test. If you are quiet, do you have a sense of what your heart rate is doing? Are you able to tell, is your heart rate elevated because you're kind of in the middle of a heated argument and debate about some issue that you care a lot about? Or is your heartbeat calmer because you've just finished a yoga session and are in like the corpse pose, savasana? How good are you at monitoring and tracking your body sensations? So a good practice of it is to start watching and being aware. So we do a lot of this normally, unconsciously, subconsciously, which is you kind of know when you need to go pee. Has this happened to you before? Like you're in a meeting, you really are thinking you need to go to the bathroom, you need to pee, but your head's like, no, I got to stay here. I got to finish my point. If I leave, FOMO, this thing's going to happen and the thing's going to be decided without me. So it's really being aware of when you need to go pee, when you're hungry, when you're cold, when you're tired. These are kind of overall body sensations to start being aware of. And then when you're in a workplace scenario and having conversations with people, you know, when is it that like you're getting a pulse in your maybe your temples, or your jaw is tightening, or like your heart rate is speeding up because you're starting to get maybe a little bit irritated at someone. Maybe there's a person who's a difficult person for you, and like whenever you see them, you almost wince a little bit. You shrink, you get a little smaller. These are all different body sensations to track. So once you start tracking it, that's cool. Just start noticing it. For me, one of my first indicators that I was really nervous about something, nervous to speak up about something, is I could feel the flush. This is like, because I could imagine myself asking a question or saying something, and I could feel the flush and I could feel my heartbeat like pounding. And this is before I've even done or said anything. It's just that anticipation of it. So it's really starting to track and know your body sensations. And why does this help? Because three, if you start to be aware of these triggers, typically in negative scenarios, you can prevent yourself from doing or saying or acting in a way that you might regret later on. So one example, a person who shall remain nameless, was a female, was once given feedback on her reviews that said, and actually, I don't even think it was written feedback. I think it was verbal feedback from a dear friend, which is, you are great and wonderful, but you can be a real bitch when you're hungry. It was from a dear friend. It was from someone that she trusted, but it was, and there was some derogatory terms and there is some sexism in there too, perhaps unconscious bias. However, it was really valuable input to be that, okay, if one of your negative triggers is being hungry, if being hungry makes you more irritable, makes you more frustrated, makes you more impatient, then that is something to be aware of. Like if you're in a meeting and you're discussing a really heated topic and you can feel those hunger pangs from your stomach, from your body, then it's time to pause and slow down and try something different in that moment. Similarly, if kind of my example earlier, if you're about to speak up and say something, but you feel, kind of the heat, the accelerated heartbeat, just know that it might be time to slow down, to do something different. Which gets me to the next part, which is if you are aware of your common negative triggers from interoception and being aware of what your body's doing, you can experiment with a tiny, tiny change. So, for that example earlier, if you tend to be more assertive and crankier and impatient when you're hungry, what would it be like to, before a very important meeting, make sure that you have a pile of nuts or be fed? What would it mean if before you say something and you feel those hunger pangs, you kind of just name it, say, "Hey, I'm a little on edge because I'm really hungry right now. Let's take a break and come back to this topic in a couple of hours or tomorrow." Another thing is if you have no control over, postponing it, try and see if long, deep breaths will calm your body down, your nervous system down a little bit so you can speak without coming from a sense of frustration or anger. A lot of times people will play with the box breath. So imagining there's a box, you breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. And you can even visualize that. Some people like to hold it for 3 seconds. So 3 seconds in, 3 seconds out, 3 seconds in, 3 seconds out. Playing with your breath is one of the easiest and most accessible ways to kind of control your heartbeat and control the calmness in emotions. Um, and then another option is that if you feel that you're clenching in your stomach, the clenching in your jaw, you kind of just start to feel a little bit of this anger from different physical body feelings, then take a break. Take a break for a moment. Excuse yourself just to run to the bathroom. Excuse yourself if you're at Zoom on home to answer the doorbell. Turn off video for a couple of minutes. Kind of notice the feeling, gather yourself before coming back and re-engaging in the conversation. So the tiny changes could be postponing the conversation to the next day, feeding yourself, using your breath to calm yourself down. Oh, and the last thing that I think helps with the change, if you're aware of these negative triggers, which are typically around judgment and irritation with someone else, see if you can also play with connecting with them, truly, truly, truly listening to hear their perspective, what they want to say, like connect with the person, connect with the shared goal, with their feelings, listening to their feelings, knowing what it is that they want. All right, the last part about interoception and how to make experiments to help you at work is to experiment with long-term change. And it's practices to help you become more aware of what your body is doing long term, which makes it easier to track them, be aware of negative triggers, and play with like what's happening in the moment, say in a meeting or in a presentation. And a lot of these come from pretty extensive research. I've read a couple of different papers, but also the work from, oh, I'm going to get his name wrong, but it's a Dutch guy. His name is Jan. But the book is called The Body Keeps the Score. Let me not Jan, Bessel van der Kolk, which I have probably butchered, but some of these strategies come from there. And the principle behind them is if you start these long term practices, it helps you discover more awareness of your body. So, for example, yoga. You can move your body and you can breathe, so you're aware more what it feels like to breathe in different ways and how to like speed up and slow down your breath. This is long term because it's kind of a commitment to start doing yoga once a week for some sessions, maybe a couple of months to see if anything changes. Similarly, from Bessel's research, it's around you could do any type of physical practice, whether it's dance or theater, to play with how your body moves and how your brain interprets some of this. Others have really talked about the value of improv, moving your body, getting into a particular character, and then also, having to let go of perfection, let go of like your brain having things a certain way to play with improv. I've seen some research studies too where long-term exercise programs help athletes become more aware of their body. I've seen it personally with running and being able to see, okay, what does it feel like to be aware of how the different parts of your body feel at like the start of a mile versus the near the end of my limit, like 3 or 4 miles, and when can you push through? What do you see as the interactions between, like, your brain saying, "Yes, I can do it, I cannot," versus the physicality of your body? I see it a lot in surfing, sometimes I am really, really tired because I've been out for a session for 2 hours, but yet sometimes you can get that little burst of energy to do a little bit more. So, engaging in long term athletic practices helps you become in better touch with your body. Strength training is another way to do it, and like being aware of like the movements of each particular muscle group, whether it's a bicep or a quad. If you're doing the difference between the feel of a squat and a deadlift. So this is going a little long, so I will wrap it up. This talk was on what some people call another sense, an inner sense rather than our traditional five external senses, interoception, which is the awareness of how our body feels. That is what is interoception. And what you start to do with it is you can track your bodily sensations just to see how that tracks to your emotions, can become really aware of your negative triggers. Hunger is also one of mine. And also like that feeling of frustration, signaling impatience, clenching of jaw. And then start experimenting with tiny changes, tiny things that you can shift in the moment, as well as establishing long-term change, which is around a physical practice, whether it's dance or yoga or strength training. All right. That's it for me today. I will see you next Tuesday. And yes, congrats for learning a new word if it's new to you, like it was to me, interoception. I'll see you soon. Bye.